You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
For some people, just showing their face on the video could be traumatizing because they haven't experienced this, right? So, but always an invitation in trauma-informed mindfulness.
Good afternoon, good day, good evening. I don't know what time you're listening or where you're listening from. It's your boy, your host, NaRon Tillman, and you are with me for another episode of Walk in Victory. Speaking of victory, walk.
Warning, this is a public service announcement. The Walk in Victory podcast is where we have conversations purposed to evolve lives. You may not want to evolve. Then tune into another bleeping podcast. Everyone else, enjoy the show. And here's our host.
Good afternoon, good day, good evening. I don't know what time you're listening or where you're listening from, but I am glad that you are listening. This is your boy, your host, NaRon Tillman, and you are with me for another episode of Walk in Victory. If you are in business, there's a high chance that there will be periods of times where you'll be stressed out. It could be because of bills or invoices or lack of production with your team, or not understanding certain products and things causes entrepreneurs to stay up all night. We will endure more stress because we're taking more risk. Even if the company is big, right? And you start to talk about acquisitions and who should we acquire and how should we move forward and how can we keep the competitive advantage, and looking at our competition and keeping our ear out on our name and making sure that we have our customer service and things intact, and not wanting bad press and hiring the right CEO and all of these things that can happen when we are in business. Someone takes that load and then compile it. We go home and we have to deal with the family. The wife is saying you're not around enough. The husband is saying he feels neglected. The kids are saying we got recital and all of these things. And it becomes almost a whirlwind. And some people can navigate those whirlwinds really, really good by compartmentalizing. They have systems in place. They have things that they do to take them away from for a moment and be present and whatever it is that we do. But then there's others who we fall into these bad traps. If you're on a load all the time, you might fall into the bad eating habit trap, or the let me go unwind at happy hour every day trap, or there's so many traps that we can fall into. Mm, Some of them are not healthy. This is reality. This is the reality that we live in. This is not. I'm not making this up. It's not like something that I'm trying to figure out. This is something that I personally live. This is something that I've had to overcome. I had high blood pressure in my mid-30s, right? Stress from business and stress from bills. That's all gone now. But this is the reality, especially depending on now the city that you live in and where you're trying to do business in. If you have a brick and mortar and everything is changing and you walk outside of your gate and you look and no one else is open, it starts to terrorize you. Like, wow, maybe I might be next. I was a staple in the community. Everybody know me, but people are now buying more online. So how do I compete and how do I stay open? When I got into mindfulness and meditation and stuff like that, our core base was youth and young adults that lived in high risk communities. And we would teach them mindful movements. And we really didn't practice so much on the stillness. It wasn't until I did my Chopra certification that I got into more of the meditation, because I was a meditation certification. And I got into the meditation and I started to piece all of those things together. And now traditionally, I'm a Christian who's been preaching since I was 24 and been really in heavy reform theology. So that traditional base understanding of the Bible, which is very systematic, the training that I have, I've been trained by some of the best teachers, and energy, Pekwa, which is a tradition of jiu-jitsu based learning. Eddie Stern was my yoga teacher and trainer and instructor for years, being Chopra certified, and plus all of the other people that I had cross intersections with. I learned how to, and it took me a while to learn how to blend the traditions that I understand, which are systematically taught, and the things that I've learned over the course of time, and make this nice, even style of what it is that we do. And I like that. And today we're going to be talking to Sonal about this and how we are more alike than we are not. How you doing today?
I'm doing very well. Thank you so much, NaRon. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for asking. If you don't mind telling our audience just a little bit about yourself and what it is that you are doing.
Absolutely. It's firstly, I just want to thank all the people who are listening in. Thank you so much for your presence, for your time with NaRon and me. So deeply appreciative. A little bit about myself. I am the founder of Connect Meditation, where we lead the meditation mindfulness journeys for groups in corporate and non-corporate environments. We blend in not only our mindfulness and meditation, but we also blend in somatic EMDR, which helps us offer trauma-informed mindfulness. Our unique approach would be, like you said so beautifully, how you blend all the different approaches that have happened in your life that you've learned. That's exactly we do. We turn to get an ancient wisdom, and we tend to blend it with modern science. And where that helps us is in terms of the modern day practitioner. Just try to make something which is so ancient, so powerful, more palatable, more understandable, more accessible. That's where it helps us. And of course, it wherever we go in terms of different audiences, different age groups, different backgrounds people have, also different practices. Somebody could be a beginner, somebody could be intermediate, somebody could be advanced level. So depending on wherever each person is and those particular audiences. So that's what we do. About me a little bit, I was born and brought up in India and got initiated into meditation. So in India, a lot of us, not everybody, but a lot of us get initiated into meditation at around 9 or 10 years of age. And that's what happened with me. Initially, I must confess, NaRon, that there wasn't very, as a child, very much into sitting meditation. I would more or less do a lot of play and, do all those things that children do. But slowly, as time went about, as I was growing up, I was getting into this, I think benefit. in getting into that so beautifully when you said when the work that you've been doing with the youth in terms of the stillness. So when I started seeing the benefit for myself, especially at higher levels of education and how it could be stressful even as a student. And then, of course, as an adult, it's been part of my life every day. I got introduced to different, when I got initiated into mantra meditation, which is something which you may have also got introduced to at Chopra, the work that they do. And also, of course, they went into breath, the Vipassana, so did that, and chakras. One of my teachers, gurus is Paramhansa Yogananda. So a lot of the energy centers that we look at. So that's what we do. But at the same time, like I said, we customize our programs according to where we are. So if it's a school, if it's a corporate environment, then there's a certain kind of breath meditation that we would do. If it's a yoga festival, then you'll get in the chakras and we do that. And, like that. A little bit about myself. I hope this kind of helps.
No, it does, because one thinks when they hear the word meditation that is like a one size fits all shirt, right? And it's really not a one size fits all shirt. I was doing a workshop in Manhattan for teaching. We was doing meditation for trauma-based people. And traditionally, I would, before I would always tell people when we get to the meditative part to close their eyes. But I was informed that sometimes when people have certain traumas, they don't feel comfortable closing their eyes. Some people don't feel comfortable laying on a mat. Some people need to stand up, and we have to learn, as you just said, to tailor where a person is. That was like revolutionary for me. And it's something that I would never forget. And I think it was so powerful. When you talk about tailoring your work and why you feel like that's important for you to have.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now. And support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now. And support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
The work tailored towards whomever's in the room. How did you come up with that? And why do you think that that's so powerful?
I think that's powerful because NaRon, like when supposing if I try to imagine, you try to imagine myself in the other person's shoes. And if I am in a class, I would love if the teacher could, or anybody, whichever situation I'm at, if it could be customized to where I am. So like you so beautifully said that even lying down on a mat, closing your eyes, even sometimes like right now I am on the video, but for some people just showing their face on the video could be traumatizing because they haven't experienced this, right? So but always an invitation in trauma-informed mindfulness or in the world of somatic EMDR that we invite you again as per choice. And this is where we're coming from. And a lot of times, like you rightly saying, when it's customization, then sometimes it could take a lot of time. Sometimes, it could just happen that for a year, You're just working on resourcing. You're not even going into a place where we are even looking at something which is difficult. A year passed by, but that's where the person is. For somebody else, it could be something different. So you honor those ways, and if it's a group, then you teach. Sort of, for example, when I do in my workshops, we tend to get in a lot of exercises like titration, ventilation, from the whole of somatic EMDR, so that I know even in the chakras. I love to talk about the cerebrospinal fluid. I talk about the pineal gland, the pituitary gland, and I also talk about how can you make this entire process, which is so you don't do something which you're not ready for, and you don't ask for your own things. Even if it's a group, I think that kind of helps because it's something where you feel safe.
Yeah, because people need to feel safe. I've heard of traumatic incidents, or I've spoken to people when I suggest, hey, why don't you try yoga? They said, oh man, my first experience in yoga was traumatic, and it brought trauma to the body. Because if you go to one of these classes, first of all, some people only have to do like 200 or 300 hours of training, right? And then they go in it, and all yoga teachers go through this period where they're so movement heavy, like trying to get everybody into the movement. Some people's body may not be ready to open that way.
Yes.
And
Yes.
understanding and watching, I think our job is to watch the body and to see when it opened, when out. I tell the story often, but I think you'll find it funny. I lived in Queens, and I would drive to Manhattan to practice with my teacher, and all I did was sun salutation A, sun salutation B, lay down and go home. And I'm looking around, I'm like, why am I? I want to do that. I want to do that. But,
Yeah.
And what happens is, by me returning, by me coming back, my language started to open up. And the language is the body. So now my teacher's saying, all right, now I want you to do this. Okay, now I want you to do that. All right, now I want you. But if he would have just said, all right, we have an hour, I'm going to take you through a whole cycle of movements that your body's not ready to explore, I would walk out of there saying, although I was mad, I only did citation A and B, I was mad because of that, but I would have walked out with trauma in the body. Talk about
Yeah.
that and how certain movements and what is your approach when you're moving within a group, and how do you manage that this person in the middle may be more flexible than the person in the end? How do you, what kind of social cues do you use?
Okay, so because I teach meditation, which is of course so yoga, as you know, I'm not a yoga teacher, so I don't do yoga asanas. I don't teach yoga asanas, but we teach meditation. So if you do the 8 steps, 8 limbed yoga, the first 4 are to do with the externalization. So your asanas, your poses, your ethics, and everything, your breathing exercise, all that comes the pranayama. From the 5th step onward is when we start turning inward, and that's actually the core of it. So, of course, you'll get a lot of anyone will get benefits if one is in the poses stage, but there's so much more that yoga can offer, which I'm sure you know. So where my part comes in is the meditation. So whatever movements we do, sorry,
No, so I can retailer the question for that.
ask
When you see someone who can get into that bliss state faster, and someone who's like antsy, and you're looking through the room, how do you give your social cues to one that's antsy, one that's going deeper, and ensure that everyone has a great experience?
Oh, that's a beautiful question. So typically what happens is that in terms of the adults, when I do workshops for them, the meditation is very related to the body. So we do a body scan. We start off with a very deep body scan, so which is like a very, very basic level for everybody. And just so there is this one of the in which it says meditate on the body with the natural awareness, and it just kind of brings you centering in a very, very so we're not talking about breath, we're not talking about meditation, we're not talking about anything high level, just relaxing your body. So we're doing 2 techniques: bringing awareness and relaxing, bringing awareness to a body part and relaxing it, just this much. So mindfulness and relaxation, and it goes. Now typically for adults, whichever level they are at, the technique is the same, but it'll touch them wherever they are. The technique tends to touch you. So, for example, it could be a person who's very new to the meditation, but typically just because it's in a very, very body-centric way and it's just happening like mindfulness and relaxation, they get touched in a different way. For a person who's at an advanced level, it will touch, but again, it'll touch in a different way. The technique is so beautifully. In fact, if you look at there's a text in India, maybe some of the listeners also may know about it. It's called the Gyan Bhairava, in which 112 techniques are mentioned in which can help you concentrate, which can help you center within. And the breath that we do, the Vipassana, which is like the watching the tip of the nose, inhalation and exhalation, that is just the first technique. And then you have a lot of other techniques. The technique itself is so beautiful. It'll touch you wherever you are. Oh, NaRon, you're not here any longer. NaRon, I think we lost you. Are you going to come back in?
Sorry about that. My computer just
Misters,
or
I just texted you. I was like, are you going to come back? Like, wait. It's like you've gone for a date and your date that
just ghosted your no ghosting here. All right, so you were saying for the repetition of going in and out of being mindful of a part of the body and relaxation. That's what
relaxation technique A itself will touch you. Secondly, I usually tend to have a section at the end for question and answers. And such beautiful question and answers come, like for example, somebody who's advanced would be asking things like about what is our true nature? Where are we coming in from? Somebody who's not so advanced would be asking like, can I sit like this? Can I sit like that? Can I stretch? Can I relax? Questions come. When we do it with little ones, then of course, because we also work with the public schools. So for the little ones, of course, you have to make it very short and you have to make it very engaging. So a lot of mindful activities. Oh, I'm so sorry.
no problem.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need. You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
I have no idea. Yes. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. Yes. So you're saying in with the children, let's talk about that with the children. For me, when we began to introduce children to meditation, I found it easier. And I worked with a company in Kansas City, and we would argue about this all the time. I found it easier, especially with kids in a city, to get them moving first before we try to sit down and have them doing. Because
Yeah.
if I never meditate, and then someone comes in and try to get me to sit down for 30 minutes to an hour. I remember I went to a Buddhist temple and I was doing some practicing meditation. I wanted to get deeper into it. I meditated, but I would find myself looking around the room, seeing if everybody's really just quiet for this long. So when you
I can totally understand that.
when you work with the young adults, what are your approach? What is your approach?
Exactly. And you so beautifully said something which I think Sage Patanjali found like thousands of years ago in India. And that's why you have the first four stages which have the yoga poses. So let's get some movement. Then we get you to
Yeah.
with the children, I make it even more shorter. 30 minutes, I can't even imagine. It's more like a minute, max to max, 3 minutes. But like I said, a lot of mindful exercises. So, for example, I would just say, depending on whichever grade they are in, of course, for teachers, it's like for adults, the way we do it for adults, but for the students, I'm talking about. So, like, for example, your hands are stretched. Now you bring them together. So, everyone brings them together. Now, again, stretch them back. And now, when you bring them together, make tips of the fingers touch, but keep your eyes closed. So again, a little bit of concentration. Or then, of course, your raisin meditation. Just how to touch it, to smell it, to taste it, and that kind of a thing. So just trying to teach them in the moment, non-judgmentally, but in ways in which keep them engaged. So that has to be very high with the little one. With adults, again, depending on where they are, of course, one does know in advance when the audience is. So that's where the customization comes in. So whoever is coordinating with us, for example, if it's an organization or it's a group, a community group, then we look at, okay, where is the level of the organization? Have they ever meditated? So before even you walk into the room, you know most of the audience where it is. And then, of course, you may have somebody who just surprises you and says, oh, I have a practice for the last 2 years. And, so then, of course, you tend to get in the different kind of questions. So that's when even more you can target it, make it more customized.
When we often hear people say these two words, pay attention.
Oh,
But what does it mean to pay attention? People don't really know what it means. So if I was to tell a child, hey, stop, pay attention. Like, attention to what? I'm paying attention to what I'm doing, right? How do you help to give a meaning to paying attention?
oh, what a beautiful question, NaRon. And I think this can only come from somebody who's really thought deeply and knows so much. A simple question, but very, very deep and profound. So for this, what I would do is, I would try to answer it in a different way, and my way, of course, the way I look at it. Every teacher has their own unique and beautiful perspective. So this is my take. What I would do is, instead of answering, pay attention. I'll look at it. What are we trying to do when we say in the world of mindfulness and meditation, when we say present moment, non-judgmental awareness? So for that, I'll tell a story. So this is a story from the Himalayas. So there was a teacher there, and a man goes up to him and says, "I'm in misery. Please help me." So he says, "Do you know that you are in misery?" He says, "Yes, I know that. That's why I come to you, because so I'm suffering." He says, "If you know that you're suffering, then the suffering is your known, and the you who knows that is the known. So known is knower. So knower and known. Or in Sanskrit, which is this language which a lot of the ancient texts in India were written about 1,000 years ago. Even now, there are a lot of Sanskrit speakers, but it says drishta and drishya. So knower, known, drishta, drishya, seer, scenery. So he says, what the teacher is trying to do is he's trying to do something very powerful. He's trying to bring a distance between the two. That you are just watching, which is exactly what we are doing. So when we say pay attention in the world of mindfulness, of course, in normal words, somebody could say a pen might say, pay attention to what I'm saying, pay attention to your homework. She's kind of different. But in the world of mindfulness and meditation, what we are trying to do is we are trying to not bring the thought. We're trying to be the awareness of the thought. We're not trying to be the breath, but the awareness of the breath. So we try to practice it. I look at it like a pilot project we first do on the breath, because generally for most of us, the breath is non-resistant. For most of us, I say that because I know and I totally understand. For some of us, it could be a little unnerving. Then it's some other objective meditation. But for those who it is non-resistant, then we tend to practice on the breath. And then once we are okay with practicing, our concentration levels are good, we tend to then go on to thoughts which could be easy, and then thoughts which are not so easy for us. In all of this, what we are trying to do is, so for example, I'll come back to the story in a minute. But for example, say I say, NaRon, how are you feeling? And NaRon says, I'm angry. And say, how angry are you, NaRon? Part of me is angry. And then I say, NaRon, 99% of you feels angry and 1% is aware that you're angry. That's how you know you're angry. That 1% awareness, which is just what you're practicing. So this person who has gone to this teacher in the Himalayas, he says, okay, I'll think about it. Because he still hasn't got the concept. So he goes home and thinks about it. And he says, okay, fine. So there's a difference. He comes back to the teacher and he says very happily, I've got it, understood it, I'm peaceful. Immediately the teacher says, you are not peaceful. You are the no of your peace. You know? Which what this person was doing was he was falling into a trap, which a lot of us fall into different places of our life, different topics, different stages of our lives, which is that we tend to identify with our thoughts. And the moment we identify, now, if the thought is troublesome, if the thought is troubling, you are in trouble. But we're trying to bring that. And I'll just give you one little example before I end this to answer your very short question. What is pay attention? I know I'm getting a lot of examples.
No, that's fine.
Just explain. So say, for example, you come back from your office every day. And it's peak hour traffic in the evenings, and you want to come home fast, dinner is waiting, there's somebody at home waiting for you. You don't want to reach home and be relaxed at home. But unfortunately, it just so happens that you're stuck in an hour traffic every day. And you don't like it, you're frustrated, you're irritated. Now, one fine day, it just so happens that you go for a hot air balloon ride. And it happens around the same time when you are usually stuck in the traffic around 6 p.m. or whichever is your time that you come back. And you're up in the air, it's dusk, the sun is setting, you're high up in the air, and you come to that same highway, which you take every day. You're above that. Now suddenly those cars and those headlights seem like twinkling stars because you're up in the sky. What have you done? You've got distance. So you're not stunned there. So exactly what we do, this distance is what we are trying to get in mindfulness. Not the thinking of the thought, but awareness. And the distance is that powerful lesson is what this teacher is trying to teach this man, that the distance is there. Now this distance is life-giving. Once you have the distance, now ideas can come to you from a different place of awareness. And therefore you may be able to think of a solution which is more whole in its potential as compared to when you're in the situation and thinking the thought. Does that make sense?
No, it does make sense. And I want to expound on this a little bit. And this is going to probably, for some of you listeners, going to lead to a deeper level of conversation and thought. So because most people think that their thoughts are just one long thought, whereas if we don't pay attention to our mind. So one of the things that I'll do is I try to get people to look outside of their mind, detach yourself from the thought, and now look at your mind and allow the mind to race. In the mind racing, we think, because we don't pay attention, we think that that's just one long thought. But in between each thought, there is a distance. What our job is to try to get that distance farther and farther away, or try to fall what we call in the gaps. When you're teaching people how to embrace their thoughts, whether it's an anxious mind or a loving mind or peaceful mind, and not be that thing. Where people like to use the adjectives, especially in America, we like to label everything. I am a Trumpian, I am a Republican, I am a Democrat, I am, and that's not the true essence of who we are. And we are not our thoughts. How do you help people navigate through that, especially in such a high pace where people love their titles? I'm a doctor. I'm a lawyer, and they really hold to these things. So give us a quick story before you answer. The guy who plays Superman, the first ever Superman, was
Yes.
in the nursing home, and he had dementia.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Save on your next oil change at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Choose Castrol Edge Full Synthetic Motor Oil to provide maximum performance and protection for your engine. Get a $15 gift card after rebate when you buy 5 quarts of Castrol Edge for $34.95. Plus 2 times O Rewards points. Offer valid in-store and online at O'ReillyAuto.com.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
And they said that every day he would get up and put on his Superman cape, his old suit, and stand and look out the window, because he was Superman. And it became so much that he didn't know how to separate that distance that you just was talking about.
So beautiful. Such a beautiful question, NaRon. Again, very, very deep. I'm so enjoying this conversation. Thank you. Now, so how do you differentiate? So we have a lot of, so here I want to get in a school of philosophy from the Eastern wisdom traditions called Non-Duality, or in Hindi we call it Advaita Vedanta. So there are beautiful techniques. So a lot of us would have heard of this book called the Bhagavad Gita, in which you have different kinds of, and when I look at the Bhagavad Gita, I'm not looking at it like a religious text. I'm looking at more like an Upanishad, the practical way to understand existence. So there were these books, these manuscripts, so if you can call them, called Upanishads, written in India thousands of years ago. And Upanishad just mean next to the teacher. So these are teachings given when the student was near you, because they're very deep teachings. And I'm looking at the Bhagavad Gita as one of those. And in the Bhagavad Gita, there are different kinds of yogas which were given. So, for example, you have the yoga that in terms of positions and stuff. Then you have the bhakti yoga, you have the karma yoga, you have the jnana yoga. Jnana yoga is to do with the knowledge. And knowledge is one of these, which this particular school believes in, that sometimes you say that, look, I don't want to get into devotion. I don't want to do karma. I don't want to do action, selfless action in order to get to center myself and know who I am. For me, it has to make sense to my mind. It has to be a rational approach. And only if it's rational, if it makes sense to me, I'll accept it. If not, I'm not going to. And that's what Advaita Vedanta is into. So there are a lot of techniques in that which we use. For example, so since you're trained in yoga and you know yoga and you've been teaching, you would know that you have the three bodies and the three bodies and the five sheets. So according to the world of yoga, so one is of course a physical body, but in the world of yoga, we have different sheets or layers, if you could call it that way. So one is the physical body, which is this, which one can see. Then we go on a little bit further down to the Manomaya Kosha, which are the five sheets. Am I getting it? Then we have the Vijnanamaya Kosha, the Anandamaya Kosha. You're going blank on the second one. But basically, it's like the physical body. Then you have your energy. So yeah, the energy body. Then you have the mental body, your prana, your breath and everything. Then you have the intellectual body, the intellect on the intellect part of it. Then you have the bliss body. And then finally, they come up to the real you in that sense. Now, when we go on, these are techniques which are based. So they're actually question and answers that I have in my workshops. And this typically for people who are ready for that. So because you got to be able to play, this question is such that, it needs a certain amount of readiness in that. Then we say like, when you say, I have a headache, do you have a headache or does your body have a headache? Is your head paining or are you in that? Where is that, So what do we say? We usually say this. But if this is what we say, then we are the awareness. We are saying that there's an awareness in that sense. And so in yoga, we say you're not the body, you're not the mind, you're the awareness of it. So we're trying to identify with that. Not that we are trying to lose the mind and body. The mind and body is magnificent, but we are trying to embrace our enlarged self, which encompasses the mind and body and is so much more. But just bringing through these techniques, you have another technique. If I'm aware of it, I'm apart from it. So whatever you're aware of, so there's in the world of yoga, there is a way, an approach called neti, not this, not that. So if I am this, I'm, huh? So if I'm aware of it, I'm apart from it. I also bring in one more technique, which is called as, if I acquired it, I'm apart from it. So for example, if this is a phone and this is a meditation bell, these are things that I've acquired. But tomorrow I say, NaRon, I am this bell. So you say, Sonal, are you okay? If you want to see a doctor, So in the same way, the body is something in the world of yoga, we say that we acquire through giving it food, water, air. If you don't give it these things, it's just going to wither away. So you are the awareness of that. And I know that it's very deep. It has to be, it's like a retreat and retreats and retreats. It's a lifelong learning in that sense for a lot of us, as trying to get as to what is this difference between you and the mind and body. And there's so many techniques. Like I said, I'm aware of it. I'm apart from it. If I acquired it, I'm apart from it. I am sentient. My thoughts are not sentient. So for example, if I say, NaRon, can you do 2 plus 2? What is that equal to? So NaRon will say 2 plus 2 is equal to 4. Is NaRon aware of 2 plus 2 is equal to 4? Or is 2 plus 2 is equal to 4 aware of NaRon? No, NaRon is aware, or whoever this person is aware of that. So the thoughts are not, there's a difference. So again, you're trying to get a difference, If I'm one and my mind and my body are, so in Hindi we say many. So anek. That means I'm the same awareness which was there when I was a child. I just feel the same person. Of course, I've acquired more knowledge, more experiences. But when a lot of times and people will come up to you and say, God, 20 years ago when I saw you, you were so different. And you're like, but there's a part of me which feels the same only, Even the people, the way they look at you, like, oh, you've aged, or you've, got experiences, or you've got this qualification or whatever. But there's a part of you which is same, So I'm ek, that means one, and many. Many. I can just go on and on. But, that's how, so many techniques, depending on where we are, to put the difference between this. Does it kind of answer your question?
No, it does, because I had to go through that personally, right? When I on my journey, it's like, all right, I'm appreciating, I'm learning these techniques. How do they jive? So I had to speak one time in a Hindu temple, and my friends were like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, after I sit down and I listen to people in contemplative conversations, it actually opened up that system that I first started talking about with the Bible. And I'm like, oh, so from one aspect, I understood what that scripture was talking about. But now that I understand this, make me the duality, the separation, I understand now really the deeper meaning to that particular scripture. Because if you're listening, most of our languaging is centered around the same things. We just say it differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what you all and the teachers that I've embraced and I've heard and I've listened to lectures and read books and stuff is that you all give a long form answer to some of the things that we give short form answers to. Like I'll give you a case in point, and then let you go. There's a passage of scripture that says, "Be anxious for nothing, but in all things through prayer and supplication, let your requests be made known to God." So that the "be anxious for nothing" is really just saying don't worry about anything. So if I just said that on the surface, oh man, be anxious for nothing, but all things in prayer. But when I look at it deeper and I start to really talk about it, all right, so what is one of the biggest conversations that we have as Americans? Anxiety through the roof. So I can't just come to you and say, don't be anxious, but
Yeah.
pray. Right?
Yeah.
So, but that's what we do in a religious context. But the scripture goes on to say, think on those things which are lovely, think on those things which are pure, think on those things which have a good result. So it's not just saying don't be anxious, because the writer understood that the mind still needs to do something. And in order for the mind to stop being anxious, start thinking on something different. But it wasn't until I did my lessons and learned meditation, and we learned how to separate our thoughts and how to distance ourselves from our thoughts. And we're not our thoughts, because a lot of we think that we're our thoughts. We think that we're our physical bodies. We think that we are, and within us all is a deeper, limitless side of us. So if my mind is racing and I'm anxious, we have to say, all right, but this is how we get to the point where we're not anxious. And we call it New Age. We call it, but these are old remedies, right? These are
Beautiful.
all remedies. These are things. It says in all things give thanks. So now the catchphrase is gratitude practice. Well, if we read the scriptures, it told you in all things give thanks. That's a practice of gratitude.
Yeah. So nice.
Now
So nicely
we
put.
rather pay the guy $8,000 to tell us to write a gratitude.
In fact, you're so rightly saying, one of the epitaphs, if that's called, or one of the things, inscriptions on the temple of Apollo in Delphi, so many years ago. And so different cultures saying their beautiful things for thousands of years in their own beautiful and unique ways is know in thyself,
Okay.
So, but I also want to say that I think it'll be incomplete if I don't also mention this, that one is that we separate the two, but it's a 3-step process. So first you separate, you get to know what is this awareness all about, this pure awareness that you're talking about. And third step is you come back. You come back to the mind and body and you see that as part of the whole. So you embrace it. But now what happens is if the problem is there in the body, I don't get, out of balance so much that I can't think of a solution. I might have a reaction, but then I'm able to come back. Or sometimes I don't even have a reaction. I know where it's coming from because I've practice that differentiation. And third thing I want to say, NaRon is so beautiful that you brought in the verse from the Bible. Thank you for doing that. In fact, my background, I didn't speak about my parents, but my father was a Hindu and my mother was a Christian. So while growing up, I remember my mother would say when we started journey, okay, come on, everybody say, our Father in heaven, holy be thy name, thy kingdom come. We've been to church, and then my father would teach us all the Sanskrit mantras that if I got scared as a child, okay, come on, say the Gayatri mantra quickly, and you'll feel better. And suddenly I used to feel better. Think that, oh my God, magic. So I had that thing, and it's so beautiful that I got introduced as a life went about to one of my teachers, which some of us may have heard about, Paramhansa Yogananda. So he's the Kriya Yoga lineage, and in that he has written books in which he has actually brought still similarities in the East and West. With different religions like Christianity and when the Eastern wisdom traditions, what they're talking about. And it's so nice to see how, in their own unique and beautiful ways, they're essentially saying the same thing, It's so nice to see that and what you also talk about.
Thank you so much. Well, I told you, everybody, you heard us. We just went all over the not all over the place. We went really, really deep into conversation. And these conversations are needed, but not just the conversations, the actions are needed. So Sonal's information is in the description. And in the description, her website, it'll take you to the website where you can get your group session. If you're building an organization, these things together collectively for organization strengthens the unity, the vision of the organization, because when you learn to be mindful together, you learn to breathe together, you learn all these techniques that help you go deeper into the person that you're working with, and seeing that there may be differences, but we're still unified. So that's why these group sessions are important. So go ahead and book yours today. We don't ask you for Cash Apps. We don't ask you for Venmos. We don't ask you for Zells or Apple Pays. But what we do ask is that you hit subscribe, your likes, your subscriptions help us to get into the algorithms and go a long way. So we should do that right now for us, please. Thank you. And most of all, don't walk with your head down. Don't walk in confusion. Don't walk being afraid. Join us in a victory walk. Let's walk in victory. Peace. That's it. It didn't stop. It stopped and then it started again. My computer's going crazy, man. It did it again. It's stop. Oh my God, it won't stop. I don't know why it's doing this. I'll edit this part out. I know. And right now I look like I am too. Why won't it stop? Maybe if I just go back to the script. Is it stopping on your end? Okay, so it did stop. On my end, my computer just going crazy. All right, but I'll email you. This will be up in sometime towards the end of this month or next month. I'll email you, and it was great talking to you. Great deal. In the beginning of March, because February is beginning of the month. Yes, you'll get an email, and I'll put the link also on PodMatch too. And I'm gonna follow you. I'm gonna follow you on all your social media stuff too.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/PODKATZ13. Just go to Indeed.com/PODKATZ13 right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.